Welcome everybody to my first ever Market Watch video. Give it a like if you're excited and let me know in the comments how I can improve this video for next time. It's my first time doing this. A huge shout out to Card Market for sponsoring today's video. It's the best place to buy your singles in Europe. You can check the link out in the description. We're going to be using Card Market to track all the data in Europe for what cards are selling and what is happening with prices. But we're also going to be looking at TCG Player, which is where the people buy their cards mainly in America. And if you would like to buy singles over on TCG Player, I do have an affiliate link, so please use that and help me get some money. Let's start off by looking at some of the best sellers from set 5 so far. We're then going to look at the best sellers from all the cards previous to set 5 to kind of see which older cards are creeping up in value. So I'm going to kind of scroll up, going to see which legendary is the least popular on Card Market, and it's going to go to Camilo Madrigal. Camilo Madrigal, the least popular legendary card in terms of buyers for set 5 so far. Arthur in a close second place. Not too surprised to see either of these down there. To be completely fair, I think Mirabelle would be another pick for me. Merlin's up there as well. Maybe people quite excited for the potential of playing Mirabelle with the Queen, which is a bit of a fun meme deck, whereas I don't really think there's too much that excites me about Camilo or Arthur particularly. Merlin, not surprised to see these 4 legendaries kind of at the bottom. They do seem like 4 of the weaker legendaries to me. Donald Duck, Jafar, the next 2, again, not great legendaries overall. Genie up next, I'm not surprised. But then we get on to the real powerhouse legendaries of the set. We've got Robin Hood, a card I absolutely adore, as I'm sure many of you know from my videos. I actually just picked up the Enchanted version of this yesterday. I did some trades for Robin Hood. I got rid of my playset of Diablos. Am I going to regret that? Maybe. Am I happy I've got Enchanted Robin Hood? Absolutely. Prince Naveen is up there as, I think, the 2nd or 3rd most popular legendary. Looks like the 3rd, because up for the top 2 legendaries, we've got Mufasa and, of course, to nobody's surprise, Clarabel. Clarabel is the talk of the town right now, and we're going to be looking at all the prices for Clarabel. This is actually a slightly dated price on this page because the market's moving very quickly. Then the very top sellers from set 5 in Europe. Daisy Duck, number 1. Nobody's going to be surprised about that. Of course, super rares, a little bit more readily available as well. So a little bit more affordable for a very, very popular card. We will take a look at Daisy Duck's exact price right now because it is higher than this. Elsa Spirit of Winter, or the 5th Spirit, sorry. Spirit of Winter is the set 1 card. The 5th Spirit, the 2nd most popular, with the Madam Mim Elephant, the 3rd most popular. Definitely a surprise to me, but they're super rares, so they're not super expensive. They're very affordable cards. And we know that people love their Ruby Amethyst, especially in Europe, based off of Disney Lorcana challenges at least, which is quite anecdotal. It does seem like Ruby Amethyst is more popular in Europe compared with the North American players. So it's not that surprising to see 2 Amethyst cards, which are nice and affordable, can slot into people's pre-existing decks, be very, very high up on the cells. The library is also up there in the top 6 as well. Of course, this is a card people are maybe more likely to get access to from just doing some simple trades at their locals because it is a uncommon card. Whereas this is something that maybe people are looking to just buy because it's a bit more difficult to get hold of. Cusco's up there as well. Definitely a nice card you can start into Sapphire decks. Chicha, quite a popular card. The highest selling rare. Pete is the highest selling uncommon. This card got a lot of hype before the set release. I started to buy into it. When I first saw it, I was like, that's pretty good. And then people were like, this is the most broken, most insane meta-defining card of the game. It's not. In my experience so far, it's good. I think it's going to see play for the foreseeable future. But to me, it's definitely been overhyped. Mother Gothel's up there, a card I like a lot. Maximus kind of surprises me. Prince John's Mirror, also, I think, a bit overhyped. Tipo is a very good card. Doc's pretty cool to see. Snow White, people clearly liking the 7 Dwarf decks. Maybe I need to build one of them. So, pretty cool. What we're going to look at for TCG Player, though, is we're actually just going to look at the most popular cards, not including set 5. So, looking at some of the cards which are more popular from set 4 and before. Now, bear in mind, there's probably a little bit of an overlap on this. There isn't like a time frame filter on here. So, it's most likely kind of the last month, last 3 weeks. So some of this data is probably going to precede the release of Shimmering Skies. So we might see some kind of set 4 meta cards in particular creeping their way into this. Cinderella doing pretty well. I think Cinderella's definitely making a comeback now that Diablo is going to be in the meta less. There's going to be less removal, things like Baboom, and therefore Cinderella is much better when going second again. I think Amber Steel Songs looks like a contender for best deck in the format, so not too surprised to see her up in the mixer. Mulan Elite Archer, also quite popular. This is going to be a good way of potentially dealing with those aggro Daisy Duck decks, so not too surprised to see that. Ursula Sea Witch Queen, I'm also not that surprised to see. I think that Ursula Sea Witch Queen didn't really find a competitive footing in set 4, mainly because the deck it fits in best is going to be Emerald Amethyst. Emerald Amethyst just had a really bad matchup into Bucky Emerald Steel. But now that that deck's gone, I think that Ursula Sea Witch Queen could really prove to be a bit of a meta powerhouse. Jafar's up there. Jafar is a very fun card and an interesting card. Strength is at $5 now, which is really, really interesting. Hades, Jim Hawkins. I think there's definitely some potential of some location decks. We've got Zeus, Ariel, Kida selling really well. I think that the Under the Sea Sing Together deck is looking very, very strong for set 5 rather, so not too surprised to see that. Mufasa and Tamatoa also up there. Now let's look at the top page of TCG Player sold cards from the first 4 sets. Ursula, Elsa, Maleficent. We've got Piglet, Pooh Pirate, Captain Jens Sid's up there. Now that does surprise me. People love their brooms, don't they? That's for sure. But we didn't get any new brooms for set 5, so I'm definitely surprised to see it. That one up there. Piglet and Fox doing well. B-Prep, Fishbone, Maleficent biding her time. This is the 1-drop. Lilo's also up there. So this is worth bearing in mind that these 1-cost characters, which Quest for 2 are still selling at this stage. So a card like Daisy Duck, even though it's one of the highest sellers right now and the price is pretty high on it, it does show you that the card is probably still going to be worth a decent chunk of money in a year's time. But then Maui, Belle doing really well. Queen's Castle, I'm kind of surprised to see this still up there. I kind of feel like this might be a bit of an overlap from the previous set. Queen's Castle definitely still a good card, but now with the library, I could see Queen's Castle actually dropping in price a bit because I'm not sure you necessarily are going to play 4 copies of it. You might. You certainly might. But then the top 8, we've got Sisu, Queen's Castle, the Queen. This is probably due to the fact that the Queen was in the Bologna winning deck from Disney Lorcana Challenge a few weeks ago. I think the Queen also looks like the best way to play Ruby Sapphire coming into this set, most likely. It's not the way you have to go. Whole New World still up there. We've got Beast Tragic Hero. Diablo still holding strong. Diablo definitely looking very good in Emerald Amber. And then we've got Rapunzel and Robin Hood as the top 2 from the first 4 sets. Pretty interesting. All right. Let's now look at each of the legendary cards. We're going to look at the prices in both Europe and America, as I'm going to take a quick sip. Excuse me. So Prince Naveen is a card which was very hyped up before the release of the set and has continued to hold its value. Now, it's worth mentioning while we're looking at all of these prices, the set is only a week and a bit old, right? Just over a week old. We haven't yet got to that 2-week mark where the big box stores get their cards. So with the big box release, there's going to be a lot more cards on the market. And most likely there's going to be less buyers because people are probably in the first week just wanting to buy, okay, I'm playing Amber Steel Songs. I want to buy my Naveen straight away. Whereas people have maybe now bought their cards and there's less likely to be as many buyers, but more sellers. As a result, it's very, very likely, almost guaranteed, that a lot of the prices overall will begin to drop slightly. Now, some of the cards won't drop. Some of them are going to increase. Some of them are going to hold. But if you're looking to invest at this stage, what's probably wise is looking at the difference in prices for foils. You can see actually the price for foils shot up. Someone bought one for £51, so ignore that. This has actually dropped. This is just someone bought one for £51 for some reason. But the price of a foil for Prince Naveen, bear in mind when you're looking at the European prices, there's some that are going to be in different languages, which can impact the price. But you're looking at about £30. Now, the exchange rate, dollars to pound, is £1 is worth $1.3. So £30 is exactly $40 at the current exchange rate for a foil Prince Naveen. So if I were you, if you're looking at investing in singles right now, and you're looking for the cards to hold their value, maybe you want to resell them down the line or trade them down the line, I would definitely look at picking up the foils. For some of the cards, Prince Naveen, a pretty good example, because you're looking at about £24. You're adding on £6 extra for the foil. Not too bad at all. £6, about $8. Now, over in America, let's take a look at Prince Naveen. Prince Naveen's currently at £34. And, $34, 35. So $35. Now, working in reverse, I don't know, it's maybe like £28, something like that. So similar prices, slightly more expensive probably over in America. And for the cold foils, you're looking at a pretty sizable increase. You're looking at about an $11 increase. So the 4 Prince Naveen over in Europe is looking pretty good. I think Prince Naveen's a very safe pickup. I think Amber Steel Songs is going to be really, really popular because it's a deck which has also existed in previous sets. I think lots of people are going to want the playset. It is worth mentioning, I don't think you need 4 Prince Naveens. And as a result, I actually anticipate Prince Naveen to drop slightly in price overall. So that's worth bearing in mind. As good as the card is, I don't think you play 4 copies of it because it is uninkable. If you look at the songs available in Amber Steel, there's a lot of uninkable songs you want to put in there. So it might be a bit of a risk to play 4, but maybe you do. It's possible that you could end up playing 4 of them. But I would anticipate Prince Naveen probably to drop in price slightly. Let's look at Mirabelle Madrigal next. The other legendary in Amber. I think this card is absolutely awful. Worst legendary card of the set. Maybe the worst character card in Disney Lorcana. It's really that bad. And yet it's going to be the promo card for the set championships, which is a bit of a weird one, if I'm honest. I like the card art. I like the fact it's got 5 lore, but this just seems so bad to me. It just looks completely and utterly unplayable. Now, we did see it wasn't the least popular legendary card because there is the potential of playing the Queen in Emerald, which can discard a card from your hand and you gain lore equal to it. There's a bit of fun there to be had potentially. I would not imagine it's a competitive list, but rather more a fun list. But maybe you could do something with the Queen and Sven. It is a deck I'm going to be testing out and bringing to you on the channel in the next few weeks. I would expect Mirabelle to continue to drop in price. I just think the card is absolutely unplayable. In terms of foiling, the foil is worth about twice as much. So I would probably avoid the foil on this one, simply because as well with the fact that Mirabelle is going to be the promo card, the foil is kind of therefore not quite as valuable for people. I would avoid buying this card at all costs. And yeah, not a very good card. Next, let's look at Daisy Duck. It's the only super rare we're going to really zoom in on because it's the super rare that's worth the most. As you can see, it's continuing to rise in price. It's looking about £9 right now, which is about $12. And I think Daisy Duck's a good investment. Worth noting, the foil right now is worth about 50% more. I think foils about 50% more are usually reasonable purchases. I think the foil Daisy Duck is going to really hold its value quite well. I do think that Daisy Duck will decrease in price in the next week with the release of big box stores. Of course, the super rares in particular, there's going to be a lot more super rares because, of course, they're more common than legendaries. So I would imagine that Daisy Duck will take a bit of a drop in price, but it's still going to be worth quite a lot. I mean, if you look at the Lilos and Maleficents, those cards are worth a lot. And to be fair, it's possible that Daisy Duck just maintains this price and actually increases. Even with the big box store release, it might take like an initial dip and then rise back up would be my anticipation. Because I think Daisy Duck can make the cut in a lot of Amber decks. I think it makes the cut. Certainly in Hyper Aggro, Amber Steel Songs, it's probably going to be in there. And it's very, very possible that you could even play it in some other decks as well. Maybe even like the Sing Together deck could just put in a Daisy Duck because it synergizes with Discard to an extent as well. So I think this card is definitely a good one to invest in. Personally, if you're going to buy it, I think the foil is probably just about worth it. But obviously, if you're looking to pick up 4 and looking to save money, just, yeah, you can't really go wrong with Daisy Duck. Over in America, it's worth quite a lot more. It's worth about $20 over in the States. And, wow, that's a lot. There's not many on the market at all. America versus Europe, the difference is quite incredible. Really, really interesting to see the difference. I thought that was why it was worth kind of pulling both up. So over in America, it's $20. Over in Europe, it's worth about $12. Huge difference. So hopefully over in America, you guys can start getting your hands on some more Daisy Ducks with the big box release. Okay, on on next, we're going to have Camilla Madrigal. We saw Camilla Madrigal was the worst selling set 5 legendary so far. It's currently chilling at about £3, $4. The foil is worth about £5, £6 in English. So if you're looking to buy Camillos, the foil's probably going to hold its value, I would imagine. Whereas, yeah, this is just not a very good legendary card. I don't think it's good at all. Maybe it could see some play, though. Honestly, this is a card I've not tested. Maybe there's a world where this could actually be a little bit better than it does appear. The problem is it's 6 cost, and it doesn't do anything the turn you play it. So it's not until turn 7 you can actually do anything with it. So maybe you could play it in like a Sapphire deck or an Amber deck where you can ramp into it and get a little bit more value. But I think it's just very, very, very niche. And I don't expect it to go up in value. Over in the States, you can see that some have been selling for like $3 or so. Yeah, not a very good card. The cold foil is worth 6. Was this Daisy? Let me just check I didn't give you some fake news of Daisy. So I'm not used to using TCG Player. Yeah, that's just a near mint one. That was $20. That is wild. My goodness. All right, up next we have Genie, main attraction. Also a card which hasn't seen any competitive play. I do have a little bit more hope for this one, to be fair, compared with Camillo. I think this does have some potential in a Sapphire deck. I mean, in theory, Amber as well, because you can Gaston into it. But I think that if you're playing Amber Amethyst, it's going to be something quicker than you would like to have a Genie. I don't think you play Gaston. But I do think Sapphire, if you go Turbo Ramp, get Genie down on like turn 5, could actually be a pretty interesting card in that deck. I haven't seen people be playing it, but if I was to play Sapphire Amethyst, I would definitely give this guy a try. So while I don't expect this to increase in price significantly, I think it's like not a terrible deal if you're interested in that deck, but I'm not sure it's going to even make the cut. The cold foil is worth about twice as much. Not really too much to say about Genie. It's worth $7 for the cold foil, and the latest sales are about $5 for the non. So Genie's not super interesting card. Arna's a really interesting card to talk about a bit more though, because it started at about £12, which is about $16, $15, and it's decreasing in price. I would imagine it's going to continue to decrease in price, but I do think it's a pretty good card. Now, Arna hasn't really found its home in any competitive lists. I've played a lot of Emerald, and I've not managed to fit this into any of my decks, with one exception. For my meta report video coming out tomorrow, I do have 3 different Emerald Steel decks. I have a mill deck, a whole new world non-mill deck, and I have kind of a tempo deck, which is kind of similar to what we might have seen from the set 3 Emerald Steel with Friar Tucks and Prince Johns. I think in that deck, Arna might make the cut. It can sing Storm Rage on it, it can sing Strength, which is pretty interesting. Banish Damagers. I think this card's basically good. It's just a card which is difficult to fit in. I think Clarabel is really kind of dominating the legendary space for Emerald. A lot of the time you're going to play Arna with Prince John, and with Prince John, you're also probably playing We Don't Talk About Bruno. Arna can't sing that card. That's pretty bad. There's also Jasmine, Lucifer, which kind of cover a similar threshold, which are like 5 cost uninkable. So Arna is essentially a 5 cost. I think this card's good though. It's not necessarily a card you're going to play 4 copies of. It almost makes the cut, I think, in Ruby Emerald, but not quite. I would probably rather play Jasmine than this as well if I wanted an extra uninkable, because it can sing Bruno, it can sing You're Welcome. Arna can't do either of those things. It could actually be good though. I think Emerald Steel has a lot of potential, and a more quick Emerald Steel build similar to set 3 could prove to be a really competitive list, and I think this could make the cut in the deck. So I do anticipate this to continue to decrease in price, but not by that much. The foil of this card is the worst foil I have ever seen in Disney Lorcana, and it's worth twice the price. I would avoid the foil at all costs with this card. It is, if you saw my pack opening stream, basically non-existent, because there's this new effect on the legendary cards where like the Arna, her dress is like really popping out. The foil is only on this curtain behind her. It is almost unnoticeable. Almost unnoticeable. So don't buy the foil of this card. It's not very good. Over in the States, or North America, I should say, it is actually cheaper. Yeah, it's a little bit cheaper over in the States, and the foil is also worth about double the price. I would just avoid this card for now. If you are interested in Emerald Steel, maybe picking this up in like the next week could be worth it. It's time for Clarabel. Look at that graph. Wow. Look at that graph, everybody. That is a card that is the talk of the town. It was as low as £8.21, which is about $11. And now it's chilling at the lowest buy at £20, and that's in German. The lowest English is £22 from my friend Disnan. Let's go. Clarabel is an incredible, incredible card. It can pretty much slot into any Emerald deck. You've got the 3-cost Clarabel, which I actually got to reveal. When they gave me the 3-cost Clarabel to reveal, I was like, why have they given me this? This is not a very good card. Well, little did I know that Clarabel Light on her hooves was ready to come. And now that 3-cost Clarabel as a shift target is great. Clarabel is a card you inherently want to shift, which is very unique in Lorcana. Merlin is kind of the other legendary in this set that's like that. And the reason is because if you shift Clarabel, it's one less card in hand. Usually when you shift a card, you're losing card advantage because you're playing 2 cards to get 1 card down on the board. But Clarabel can shift in and then instantly replace that extra card that you lost, and you get her in sooner. Incredible card, particularly strong in Sapphire Emerald, where she's really enabling that ink color combination to be very competitive. And also just good in Emerald Steel, going to be good in Emerald Ruby as well. Probably not going to make the cut in Emerald Amethyst, in my opinion. I think that Emerald Amethyst can just do other card draw stuff like Friends, but maybe it does. I personally wouldn't play it in Emerald Amethyst. I personally wouldn't play it in Amber Emerald, where you have Diablo and Prince John, which do so well in that deck. Diablo particularly strong in Amber Emerald because of being able to sing Bare Necessities, which can discard Babooms and Brawls and keep it on the board for longer. And yeah, but Clarabel and every other color combination, Sapphire, Ruby, Steel, very, very strong. And I think all those are competitive decks. This card's going to continue to increase in price, in my opinion. I really, really think so. I think it's an absolutely tremendous card. It's going to hold its value for a very long time. It's inkable card draw in Emerald. Emerald is really, really struggled for card draw historically. It's just a great card. Let's look at the foils. See what they're chilling out. The foil, you're looking at about £32 in English. So you're looking at about an increase of £10, which is like 33%. So the foil's a pretty good deal, honestly, at this moment in time. The foil has actually started to drop in price a bit. Someone bought one at £20, which is a really good deal. So I think Clarabel is going to continue to rise in price. It is worth mentioning that the big box stores, again, can definitely impact things. I do want to mention, guys, I'm not a financial expert. I'm not exactly the biggest expert when it comes to Lorcana card markets. This is my first market watch video. I have been keeping a pretty close eye on the markets recently, but take this with a pinch of salt. I'm kind of just talking more from like, this card's really good, and I think it's going to continue. People are going to continue to buy this card. There's a real shortage of it. Speaking of shortage, this item has no current listings over on TCG Player in America. Mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing to me that there's not a single Clarabel on the market. They have been bought out. Mufasa up next. Let's have a look. Mufasa is a card which was very hyped up. It's dropping in price, and it's going to continue to drop in price. The reason? You can't play 4 of these in your deck. I'm actually currently playing 1 Mufasa in my Sapphire Emerald deck, and I really like it. 2 copies felt clunky. I think it's a card that's really difficult to fit more than 1 copy in, and therefore I just can imagine this is going to completely crash and burn. It's a really cool card. It's a great art. I think this card's going to absolutely crash. I don't think it's going to hold its value. I really, really don't. I think the Enchanted will. The Enchanted is glorious. The foil is worth like £6 more, which is not bad, but I would avoid Mufasa. I would not invest in this card. I'm sorry if I have an impact on the market, by the way, guys. I don't know. I just still want to do this. It's just interesting to talk about. But my opinion is, I have an impact on the market even if I don't do market watch videos, so why not? Yeah, I think this is going to crash pretty significantly. That would be my prediction. Over in America, there are quite a lot of listings for Mufasa. $29 is what you're looking at. The foil is $42, so pretty significant increase. If we are looking at the graph, it has started to drop a little bit, Mufasa, but not hugely. It already has started dropping quite a lot over in Europe. It's already down £7, which is a significant drop. About 25% drop in just a week. I would expect that to continue. Merlin up next. Merlin, a card I haven't yet played. Potentially you could play it in Sapphire, Amethyst, but I think there's better ways to build that deck. I think it's a bad card. You have to shift it for it to be any good. And the shift targets are all kind of good cards that you don't really want to shift onto. It's £6 currently, which is about $9. The foil is worth twice as much. I would probably avoid Merlin. I think this card will also decrease significantly in price. $11 over in America. Yeah, I would avoid buying this for now. Arthur up next, one of the lowest selling legendaries. I think Arthur's maybe not as bad as we're giving it credit for. I think Arthur, it is uninkable, which makes it a bit awkward, but it's got some serious utility as maybe like a 1 or 2 of. There aren't that many good Arthur shift targets. Of course, there's the Arthur in Amethyst, but I doubt you're going to be playing these two together because that is an uninkable. There is the 2-drop Arthur. Then you could shift it onto Morph. But there's so many good Morph targets in Emerald Steel. You've got all the Steel Floodborns that we used to, like Robin Hood, Beast. You've now got Clarabel. So Arthur definitely struggling to find its footing. I do think there's potential for this card to sneak into some competitive lists, though, as a 1 or 2 of. But I don't expect its price to increase. The foil is worth about twice as much. There is also an Enchanted for this card, which maybe decreases the value in the foil a bit. Over in America, it's selling for about $4, but the lowest currently is about $10. If you can pick up one on the cheap and you want to complete your playset, go for it. Otherwise, I would avoid it. Jafar up next. I haven't played this card yet. It's not very good. I think it maybe could make the cut in Amethyst, Steel, Jafar decks as just like a big body that can sing a whole new world if you have a dodgy hand, but can also be shifted onto with the big Jafar. Now, it seems weird. Why would you want to play a 6-cost card to shift on a Jafar? But a lot of the time with a Jafar deck, you just play a Jafar, you play a Jafar, you play a Jafar, they all get removed. Then you get to 6 ink, you play this big boy down. He's decent on his own, but then if you draw into that big Jafar with a whole new world in hand, you have that option of doing it. I think it's actually not a terrible card, but even if you do play it in that deck, it's a card that you're not going to play that many copies of. You're looking at about twice as much for the foils. I would probably avoid this card for now. Over in the States, you're looking at about $6. Later sells at about $4.50, and the foil is worth not much. It's a pretty good purchase on the foil. Unless you live in the UK where the shipping's $12. Donald Duck, another pretty bad legendary. It's looking at about £3. Also has an Enchanted, which is glorious. So the foil, I'm not sure, would really hold that much value. You're looking at twice as much for Donald Duck. Probably the same in America. You're looking at the latest sales are about $5, and the cold foil is about $8. Our next, Robin Hood Sharpshooter. Definitely a card I want to talk about quite a lot. It was very expensive about 10 days ago. Not very expensive. It was about £13, $16. And then it's kind of dropped and dropped. It's starting to creep up a bit. I think this card's going to hold its price. I think this card's absolutely tremendous. I love this card. It's my favorite card from the set. I probably had a bit of an impact on its price because I have been playing a lot on stream. And it does seem like the cards I play on stream are kind of changing in value quite a bit, potentially during the streams. That is something that is happening. I just didn't want to say, yeah, I'm playing this card, so it's gone up in price. Like, just unfounded statement. Like, it's actually been happening where there's cards I'm playing on stream and they've gone up in price as they've been popping off. I think this card's tremendous. I think that Robin Hood is really, really good in Ruby Emerald. It completely enables that archetype to be competitive. I think it's going to be a card which holds its value. The Enchanted is absolutely glorious. I got one yesterday. And the foil for this card is worth about, well, actually the foil looks like a really good deal. That is some German ones there. So the English one's about £7, which is about $9. And then the English foil, you're looking at about 13. That makes a bit more sense. So I think this card's really good. Personally, I think it's going to hold its value. It isn't going to be played in a lot of decks, but I think moving forward, it's a card which will become better in more decks. So I think it's a good long-term investment. Over in the States, there is only one card on the market, and it is a... I wonder if it's because they don't ship to UK. That's just... Maybe it's only this lot that ship to UK. Maybe that's why. Huh. I don't know. I'll let you know in the comments. I'll do some research. If that's why there's only... Is there, like, really only one Robin Hood on the market? That just seems mind-blowing to me. Maybe it's because I'm in the UK. Anyway, let's move on to the Enchanted cards. We're only going to look at the prices in Europe because there's a really handy way of doing it here on TCG Player. Enchanted Naveen in English, you're looking at £140, which in dollars, I don't know, it's about $170, something like that. $170. I don't love this Enchanted that much, to be honest with you. But it is a competitive card. It's going to hold its value, I would imagine. In Germany, you can get it for like £130. Up next, we have Vanellope von Schweetz. Not an Enchanted I'm a big fan of, not a card I'm a big fan of, and there's also the D23 version of it. That's kind of being reflected in its price, £80. I have not really ever been building a deck. I'm like, oh, I'm going to play the Sugar Rush Princess. Not a card which I've really got much faith in, to be honest. So, dropping in price already. The D23 can't be helping it either. Yeah. Revive up next. Revive, the first legendary I pulled, and I think it's the cheapest of the set. There is some potential for a Robin Hood Amber deck. I don't think so right now. Maybe moving forwards, it's a card which could increase in value, but it's not doing very well. It's one of the cheapest Enchanted cards around. £43 Enchanted, and it's not even a location. Archimedes up next. Also a pretty cheap Enchanted. You're looking at about £65. Again, not a very competitive card. Pretty cool artwork, though. Speaking of cool artwork, another Enchanted I pulled, which is Olaf. You're looking at about 70. I think Olaf does actually have some potential in a Amethyst Sapphire deck, maybe with like the Genie, with Elsa. Turbo Ramp. You certainly need to have a lot of ramp or like a Fishbone Quill to be able to justify including this in your deck. I don't know. I think Olaf might hold its value pretty well because it's a nice art. People will want to collect it. It's not currently seeing any competitive play, but I do think like Olaf Genie in Sapphire Amethyst, I'm still not ruling out having some potential. Finders Keepers up next, a £52 card in French. In English, you're looking at £61. Finders Keepers, not currently seeing any competitive play. I am interested in trying this card out with Robin Hood in a Ruby Amethyst Jafar deck. It's probably not going to be very good though, but it does sound like quite a bit of fun. Wouldn't really expect this one to change too much, but pretty cheap. Maybe this card could be good down the line, right? Like Robin Hood, Finders Keepers one day. Sounds like it could be a good deck. For now, I haven't actually tested the deck because I imagine there's just better ways of playing Ruby Amethyst. And also Finders Keepers in non-steel Jafar decks. Clarabel. In French, you're looking at £82. In English, you're looking at £87. 95 is the next one. So about $115, something like that. Pretty good price for Clarabel. The graph's pretty interesting on this one. It hasn't shot up that much. I actually had the chance to buy one from my local game store at about £90 the other day. And it did seem like a good deal. But I have to say, I don't love the artwork on this Clarabel Enchanted compared with some of the others. You've got to imagine it's going to go up in price, right? But there is a lot of Enchanted Clarabels out there right now in Europe on the market. So maybe not. Scar up next. Scar, not a card which is seeing any competitive play currently. I think Clarabel as a card draw engine is massively outshining Scar. Scar is a kind of card which I think Emerald in previous sets could have made pretty good use of. Right now with Clarabel existing, I don't think it's going to see any competitive play. It is a lovely artwork though, that's for sure. I would imagine because it's not going to see competitive play, it might drop a little bit, but similar to Olaf, it's got some nice artwork. You're welcome. I bought a You're Welcome, so this is maybe me being a bit biased. I think it's going to go up in price. I love this one. Please don't, because I want to get a playset of this card. I just think this artwork is absolutely tremendous. I love the card. I think that it is worth noting that it's a uncommon base card, but then the Enchanted is, you know, so the base card is worth like nothing, right? It's worth like 4p. So that is having an impact on its price, because obviously if the base version was a legendary worth $30, the Enchanted version of it would therefore kind of get an extra $30 or so as a result as well, you would imagine. So I think this is a really good pickup. I'm looking to get some more copies of this via some trades. I love the card, but I'm biased. I have a copy of You're Welcome, but honestly, I actually want the price to stay down because I want to buy more. I love this card. It's great. Really, really cool. Donald Duck, a beautiful artwork, not a playable card. I think this one is, look, it's looking at £82. I can imagine it might hold its value. I think it's a really, really nice artwork. Up next, we have Robin Hood. Robin Hood at £96 right now on Card Market. I think this one's probably going to hold its value because it is a card I like a lot. And I think the artwork for this one is also really, really beautiful. So definitely a card I'm a big fan of. That is a pretty cheap one, though, at 96. There's also some... I'm honestly tempted to buy this one. Not going to lie. I might buy that. You might not see this when the video is posted. I might have snapped that one up. I really, really love this card. I would love to get a playset of Robin Hood Enchanteds. But it might drop in price. It's pretty spenny for now. Ratigan's Party is just £32. Is that the cheapest Enchanted of all time? It's pretty unplayable. I don't really like the artwork that much, although I can't really see it that well. Location Enchanteds. Yeah, they're never going to be that popular. We got Blue Fassa. Blue Fassa's chilling at £189. 181 was the last sale. 163 currently. So it does seem like it's coming down a bit, probably with the fact Mufasa's not that playable. Starting to shoot back up, though. Again, worth bearing in mind with all these Enchanteds, the big box sales are coming through, and that could have an impact on the market. We're looking at 50 for King Candy. Another Enchanted I pulled. My Enchanteds aren't worth that much. I got Revive. I think King Candy might go up in price. I think there's a world that sees some competitive play in a Sapphire Steel deck. It's kind of like a budget version of Gaston, because it's a 5-cost character which you can draw 2, put one on the bottom. If you've got 2 Whole New Worlds, you can get rid of a Whole New World, for example, and then you could sing a Whole New World. Something like that. I actually think it might be good in Sapphire Steel, so I think like long term this might go up a bit, but I don't know. Prince John's Tantrum, Royal Tantrum rather. Don't expect this to really change. Probably drop. It's not going to see any competitive play as far as I'm concerned. Snow White is one which is at about £94, £100 or so. I think this one is pretty damn solid in terms of an artwork, but not very competitive. But definitely a card which a lot of collectors are going to be going after. Similarly, Arthur, really nice artwork, 60 quid there, 70, kind of the next one. And then we've got Bad Anon, which is at £30 as well as a location, kind of unsurprising. And that is all the Enchanted. Let's take a quick look at some other notable cards from set 4 and before. Look at a few Enchanted. We're also going to look at the D23 promo cards. Diablo is... Well, I mean, this most recent spike was on the 16th, which was just... So it did spike up. It dropped down to as low as $23 on the 9th, which was around the release date of Shimmering Skies, a little bit before. And it has gone back up, but now it's started to drop back down again. I do think Diablo is pretty good in Amber Emerald, but that's it. I personally would not play it in Ruby Emerald, although there is a version of Ruby Emerald doing the rounds with Diablo that's an option. I just think that the Prince John version is going to be where the meta settles. The Enchanted version of Diablo, also at an all-time low at 102. I think I sold mine around here? Hopefully it was here. I sold it around this time, not going to lie. So I'm pretty happy with that. Only card I ever sold. Ursula, I think Diablo might creep back up. I think this is just a beautiful art. Lots of people are going to have been selling it. I think this card will go back up, to be honest, this one. I think this Diablo is probably going to hold its value as well, because I think it will see competitive play. Ursula, Deceiver of All, is a card which I think could creep back into the meta in Emerald Steel, for sure. And therefore, I would imagine it might go back up slightly in price. But honestly, the fact it's still $18 is kind of surprising. £18, kind of surprising. Robin Hood is a card which continues to hold its value. It sees lots of competitive play in lots of different decks. I think Emerald Steel's on the come up. Beast Tragic Hero is dropping down to £23. I am in need of some Beast Tragic Heroes, and I'm kind of tempted. Before I post this video, I might just snap up a couple beasts from that Enchanted Robin Hood. We'll see. I don't know. Maui, Hero to All, is also... I think Beast is pretty good, honestly. I think Beast is... I think Steel decks... Ruby Steel, if Ruby Steel's any good, we'll play this. I don't know if Ruby Steel's any good. I'm not really a huge believer. But I think Emerald Steel can play this. I think Sapphire Steel is going to be more interested, mainly because I think Madame Medusa is just going to be less popular in the metagame moving forwards. Because we're moving into a pretty quick metagame, I think that Beast Tragic Hero might become a little bit more of a safe option again in Steel decks. Floodborn synergy as well with Morph, because I think Morph is pretty good this set. So I think this one will see play. Maui is at £9.30. Continue to kind of hold its medium value. Elsa, Spirit of the Winter, is currently chilling at about, well, there's one in German, one in English at about 600, which would be one of the lowest sales that we've ever had. Someone sold one at £72. No. But this card kind of maintaining its value for the last 4 months. Hasn't really gone up or down. And then moving on to the D23 set. The D23 set was £96 at retail. A few resold for like 200. It is crashing back down. Currently, you're looking at about 180 for one, which is pretty cheap. Now, what some people are doing is they're listing the D23s as singles. So this is the Mickey Mouse. The Mickey Mouse is, some are actually selling for like 65. Some are selling then the Cinderella for 35, the Ursula for 54, the Bruno for 50, the Vanellope for 41, and the Oswald for 48. So that's probably the way to do it. People are doing is they're kind of taking out their singles and selling each as singles. Kind of interesting. All right, guys, thanks for watching the market report. Thanks for Card Market for sponsoring today's video. Definitely check them out if you're buying singles and that in Europe. I appreciate all the support on the video. And again, please let me know what kind of information you would like for the next time I do one of these Market Watch videos. It's not going to be once a week. Probably once a month is more realistic. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't listen to any of my advice. I'm not a financial advisor. That's my disclaimer. Cheers. Bye now.